Veszprém Balaton Calling Podcast. Történetek rólunk, neked. Láss mögé. Veszprém Balaton Calling.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. You're listening to the English edition of our Veszprém Balaton Calling podcast series. I am Szabolcs Szikszai, co-founder of Túrajó Veszprém, and of course before we start we would like to express our gratitude again for the generous support of the Veszprém Balaton 2023 European Capital of Culture project, whose sponsorship has brought this podcast alive. And today we have a special guest in the studio again, Catherine Gane, a native English teacher and lector who is retired now and living in Felsőörs. So we're going to ask her why she chose to live in Felsőörs in the first place and what she likes about Felsőörs and the Bakony-Balaton region. So, Kathy, good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's check the stereotypes. What's the weather like in Felsőörs right now?
Very hot today.
Okay, so the same as here.
Yes.
Okay, I couldn't help but notice when I visited your place the other day that you have a large garden. So
Yes.
do you like gardening?
We do. It's much larger than anything we had when we lived in England. It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
But we are learning to grow vegetables and we have fruit trees. And I make jam every year, which I never did.
That's great.
Ever. So,
So that's an impact of
yes,
Felsőörs.
definitely.
Okay, so Kathy, please tell us about your story. How did you end up in Felsőörs? Why did you settle down in Felsőörs? What was your motivation? What's your story?
It's really funny, actually, because everybody always says, why Hungary? Why did you move to Hungary? And basically, in 1997, my brother married a Hungarian girl, and they had a traditional wedding in a small village called Rada, which is near Zirz. And that was our first experience of Hungary. So, as you can imagine, it was a very traditional small village. After the wedding, which was fantastic, being a traditional Hungarian wedding, we went to Balaton Calling for a week. And at that time, you can imagine no one spoke English at all. So it was a very interesting experience trying to order food, for example. After that, we went to Budapest, obviously, just to finish off our holiday. And we really enjoyed our experience. And we regularly visited family and continued over the years, and the number of visits became greater. In 2007, we spent a month travelling around Hungary in our camper van and really exploring different regions. But we were always drawn back to Lake Balaton, and in particular Balaton Almaty was our favourite kind of area. And then for various reasons, in about 2012, we decided to sell up everything and buy a house somewhere in Hungary. And at that time, when we looked at the prices, luckily we were able to afford to move to this area. And actually we looked at various places, but my husband actually found our current house on YouTube. It was advertised through a video. And that's basically how we came to be in Felsrs. So we knew the region very well, but we didn't know Veszprém at all. So so we
Well, it's quite an adventure.
Yes.
How big is your family?
I have two sons, but they're both grown up now, and one lives in Wales, which is next to England, if you don't know, and he's a aerospace engineer. And he works for a firm called GE, which is also present in Hungary. And my other son is an English teacher, and he lives in Bangkok in Thailand. So a bit of a global family now.
Okay, so you visit them often in Thailand and the
No,
UK?
we've never been. So we're hoping to go this year to Thailand, which will be our first visit to Asia. But they actually come here. So in April, James came here from Thailand. So they regularly visit us in Hungary.
That's great. Where else do you like to travel?
We particularly like Eastern Europe. And obviously we go to Croatia every year because it's lovely to be able to drive. And I think another one of our favourite countries is Slovenia. So we actually really like this
caves.
kind of whole area. Yes, yeah.
Okay, so back to Felsőörs. You've lived in Felsőörs for 9 years now, if I calculate right.
Yes, yeah.
And you also worked for 3 years in the Lóczy Lajos High School in Balaton, quite close to Felsőörs. What do you think about these two cities now? How have they developed over the years of your stay here? And let's start with your place of residence, Felsőörs.
Well, Felsrs has actually grown quite a bit since we moved here, and we have lots of new builds and also lots of young families, which is fantastic for the village. And as to Balaton Fiored, I mean, I don't, although I worked there, I didn't actually know Fiored very well, but it's kind of split into two. And one side of the 71 is very residential, and tourists don't really go there. And then the other side is the touristy area. So, from my point of view, I suppose I've seen development of new hotels, apartment blocks, and at the moment they're building, I think, a new theatre in Balaton Fiored, and I think that will be really interesting to see what sort of programs they have there.
So, in Felsőörs, do people speak English?
They do, surprisingly. Everybody remarked to my husband and I that how do we manage, in this village? But actually, there nowadays, I think lots of professionals, if you're a teacher or an engineer or you work in a university, most people really have a second language, and that will usually be German or English. And so we've not had a problem. And also, we're very lucky in that our mayor speaks good English and has been a great help to us. So it's not,
and he's always available, as you pointed out.
Exactly, yeah.
So, but I know that you actively organized an English-speaking club for teenagers in Felsőörs.
Yeah.
What were your experiences?
Well, because I really like working with teenagers, so I just started an English club to really support them, mainly for those young people who already speak some English and are working towards their speaking exams. So, the oral exam is a large part of the exam that they have to take at B2 or C1 level. So really it was helping them to practice for those exams.
But this club closed in 2019 because of COVID.
Yeah, because of COVID, yeah.
You're hoping to restart
Yeah, I hope
soon.
so, yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what teenagers or maybe adults can expect?
Yeah, I mean, basically I ran two clubs. So one was for teenagers and one was for adults. So the teenagers is much more structured towards what they need to pass the exam. The adults was more about just being able to practice their English. So we would have a different topic every week and lots of interactive activities to help them just practice. And we'd bring food and have English tea, cup of English tea.
Cake maybe?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, it was really good actually, and it really helped me to meet people in the village.
And what about your experience in Balaton Fiored when you were teaching as a native English teacher?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I mean, my job was to help or make the pupils or students speak English. So they weren't allowed to speak Hungarian. And at that time, I didn't speak any Hungarian anyway. And I used lots of interactive activities to help them really relax and just speak English naturally. And we had a lot of fun, lots of laughter, which was really important to me.
Because that helps.
It does, yeah.
A little side note here, I was also attending a bilingual high school myself in Szolnok. And my daughter is also attending a bilingual high school here in Veszprém. And she also talked about, and my experience is the same, that we had a very close relationship with the native speakers. Did you find that so?
Yes, I think because we teach. I mean, I'm guessing other people do the same, but we teach in a different way. So it's not your stand at the front and teach. It's more interactive and getting to know students really well. And so I keep in touch with a few of them through Facebook.
Do you have any good memories that you can
I do.
share
I mean, it's really interesting when I came to find out what the students really enjoy. And one of the games that I kind of introduced was bingo. And I don't know if you know bingo here, but we had lots of fun with bingo in the class Do you understand?
Well, I know about bingo, but we don't do that very often.
No,
here.
you don't. So it was kind of like,
Yeah.
and sometimes we would have prizes for the people who won. And always I would say at the end of a term, what would you like to do in the last lesson?
Bingo.
And everybody, bingo. So
Good answer. So, and generally, how do you find the state of English as a second language in the region?
I think it's always really impressed me, especially amongst young people. And I think, I don't know about other regions, but, there are many, you have the dual language school in Almaty, and then Lotzi and Fiored, and in Veszprém you have Veteshi and Lovashi. So it seems to me actually that the standard of English amongst young people is really good. And nowadays with the internet, they're accessing English all the time through music or YouTube.
Absolutely. But if you had your way, what would you do to improve language education amongst teenagers?
Personally, I think it's quite important to have a native speaker, if it's possible, in the classroom with the students, because just so they're confident to speak to an English person, because it's very different speaking to an English person as to a Hungarian who speaks English. So and also I think if it's possible to do trips, obviously to the UK or English speaking countries, that really helps.
Spend some time.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you mentioned that you're taking Hungarian language classes.
I am, yes.
Why is that? What's your motivation?
From I have been learning it for many years, but I think number one, there are people in the village who don't speak English, and I really, really want to have a conversation with them, and it's very frustrating that I can't. And the other reason is that I would like to apply for my citizenship. And I don't know if you're Hungarian citizenship, and I don't know if you're aware, but basically you have a kind of interview when you apply, and you have to be kind of B1, B2 intermediate level, which is actually quite high in Hungarian. So I'm hoping that I will soon be confident enough to.
I bet you will do fine.
I hope so.
Moving on to another topic, tourism. How do you think foreigners and your relatives and friends in the UK view Veszprém and the Bakony-Balaton region? What do you think are the main attractions and values of the region to a foreigner? It's
quite interesting because a good friend of mine is staying with me at the moment, and she comes every year. And I asked her this question last night, and she said one of the main things she likes is kind of the relaxed atmosphere, and it's very chilled, and so people come here for a rest, and to relax and just, get away from those everyday stresses. So, and also, there's many things going on all the time. For example, we went to Felsőörs Strand last night, and there was a concert, and it's free, and everybody's having a really good time. Music is a big thing with my friends, so we always go to the jazz picnic every year, for example. So there's lots of attractions, and then I know this isn't mainly about the Balaton, but the Balaton, you can't really describe it to people until they actually come and see it, and then they're wow.
So you're saying people are coming to visit you, but they don't know what Balaton is?
No, they never know. So when I say it's a big lake, it's actually, Hungarians call it a sea. It's massive. So
if you wish.
It's difficult to describe to somebody.
Do you sail sometimes?
Sorry?
Do you sail? Yacht?
Oh, no, I wish we could, but no.
Hey, but which are your favorite places in the region or around the lake?
Obviously there's... one of the things that's really attractive, I think, at the moment and is increasing is wine tourism. And I think Hungarian wines are really, really good. So one of our favourite places, especially to take visitors, is somewhere like Yazdi Wine Terrace in Palaznak or Csobak. I'm not sure.
It's a good choice.
Yeah, very good. And it's, we can just turn up there and the view is fantastic. And so I believe that wine tourism is going to particularly... develop over the next few years. The strands are very comfortable. Tihan is the Calatos, the lookout towers, always a really nice walk to take visitors, but not at the moment. It's too hot.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if you know that we have a dog, a Hungarian Vizsla, and we take our dog regularly to Dog Beach, which is next to the Tihan Ferry, and that's one of our yeah. So it's quite popular.
Is it a he or she?
It's a she. Her name's Lucy.
Okay, so she likes to swim in the Balaton.
The ducks. She actually likes the ducks on the Balaton.
Okay,
so, yeah.
really. Chasing the ducks.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I'm not even going to ask the question which coast.
No, good. I'm glad.
Balaton you prefer?
Being a diplomat.
So it's the northern coast. Absolutely. But the view from the southern coast is really nice on the northern coast.
That's what Hungarians tell me. So.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Onto a more serious topic. As you know, Veszprém and the Bakony-Balaton region are home to the European Capital of Culture in 2023. And obviously, it's opening up possibilities. The ECC 2023 project is offering various new programs to local communities and tourists already this year, and will probably continue to do so. And this heightened attention will probably generate significant one-off revenues for tourism service providers in the region. But I was reading the literature, and some of the literature suggests that the long-lasting impact of the ECC title on local tourism is not always guaranteed. So we have to work hard in order to have a long-lasting impact. From the perspective of a native English speaker, what do you think Felsőörs and, of course, other places in the region should do in order to benefit as much as possible in the long term from the ECC 2023 project? It's a long and hard.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to think about, really. I mean, I think from a personal point of view, the tourist information is really important. It's really important to be able to find these attractions that you can take visitors to, or restaurants, or or just places to visit. And so for me, I'm hoping that the long-term effect will be that actually it will be easier for people to discover the whole region. And that could be just like from a village website to actually the Veszprém region kind of signage, and make it easier to find places, because I think, particularly with Veszprém, that I haven't really discovered Veszprém, and it would be, I think there are places that I don't know about, so I'm really hoping that I will discover more about Veszprém in particular through this.
Do you think more English-speaking programs would help, or it's not necessary?
I think I don't know if there are any statistics about where tourists come from. And I know that German was always the second language for a long time, but I believe that people come from all over the world, and English is the common language. And so if you want to attract people from all over the world, then unfortunately or fortunately, you're going to have to make sure that you have those opportunities available.
And I know that you're taking Hungarian classes in Pécs.
Yeah. I went to a summer university there. Yeah.
This year, was it?
Yes, yeah.
You know that Pécs was also host of the European Capital of Culture in 2010.
Yeah.
Do you see any impact from that in Pécs? Obviously, I didn't visit earlier, but...
Yeah, I can only compare the two. And for example, just going back to what I said, if you look at the kind of websites in Pécs, it's really easy to find what's on, where to go, and lots of information. And sometimes I do struggle finding similar kind of information locally.
Yeah.
I don't mean that as a criticism, but it would be more helpful.
It's totally acceptable.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, prior to COVID, there's a women's club in Felsőörs, and this women's club organized a club session which was devoted to tasting international meals prepared by foreigners, four locals living in Felsőörs. And I happen to know that you made an English cake for this occasion. Which cake was it exactly? And why did you choose this particular cake?
Yes, it is quite difficult deciding what is a kind of quintessential, if I could use that word, English cake or meal. And so I made basically a Victoria sponge, which actually originates from, if you know what afternoon tea is or high tea, if you go to a very posh hotel, you can have afternoon tea.
5 o'clock?
Pardon?
Is it the 5 o'clock?
Yeah, kind of around that time or earlier. And always there will be a sponge cake. And that actually originates from Queen Victoria attending afternoon teas.
So it was not her sponge then?
It's a Victoria sponge, but she used to eat it. So, so she was like the patron.
So you chose this because you thought it was quintessentially
English.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've asked this because... at the University of Pannonia, we organize an international week annually where students from all over the world, Cambodia, Nigeria, China, South Africa, South Korea, Kazakhstan, Iran, and you name it, other countries, get together and cook their national meals for each other. And this is a really successful event. And it seems that, cooking is a good way to get to know one another and maybe overbridge any cultural differences that might exist. On this point, which meal do you think best represents or is the most quintessentially Hungarian meal, or best represents our closer neighborhood, the Bakony-Balaton region?
It's quite a difficult one, really, to answer that one, because most foreigners will answer goulash, obviously. So, but actually, that's not my particular favourite, and I think the usage of paprika is obviously, I'm half Hungarian now, so I use paprika a lot.
Hot
and
or
smoked, actually, verstoot.
Yeah. Is it hot?
It's kind of sweeter, a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I prefer the sweeter one.
Okay.
But and originally, obviously, chicken paprikash, and you can think about the chimney cake and some Roy dessert maybe, and so there's quite a wide range of traditional Hungarian.
And what about the soups? Because
the soups are really important, actually, because I realised that Hungarians love soup and cold fruit soup. And it's like, I don't understand the cold fruit soup as a starter. But, my personal favourite is Polots soup. So that's my personal favourite.
So did you latch on to this? Did you have soup like every meal?
No, I don't, because I'm English and I still find it funny to have soup all the time. But I know it's a staple part, isn't it? And kids come home from school and the soup is on the stove ready to eat for them.
It's a critical question in the citizenship exam.
Yeah.
So be prepared with another answer.
Yeah.
Okay, and on this note, which is your favorite place to eat? Where do you take your guests?
Yeah, where do we take our guests? So it's quite interesting, actually. I just wrote a small list. So Gusto 13 in Veszprém, which was previously Chianti, is always a favourite with ours. The Noppi menu is really good value for money, and the waiters and the customer service is excellent.
I agree.
Yeah. Vigmonar in Chopok. Yes, is my husband's favourite. And the newer places are Kunst Cafe, and we really like that art cafe. It's really modern. Just opened, I think, as part of the ECC project. And it's very, very good. And our latest favourite is a new place. It's relatively new in Oslo, called Bitang Burger. It's very, very good. And there are a lot of young people. They did a lot of research before they opened, and they marketed it really well. And from day one, it was a success. And I always have the vegan burger, and my son is vegan, and he said it's the best one he's had in the world, because he's travelled a lot of places, and he said it's the best one he's ever had. So you can't get better than that, really. So there are many good places all over this region, but it's always nice to discover a new one. So yeah.
I'm already hungry, so we have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being with us, and once again, you listen to the Veszprém Balaton Calling podcast, the English edition, and we would like again to express our thanks to the Veszprém Balaton 2023 European Capital of Culture project, whose sponsorship was absolutely essential in making this podcast.